Imagine a country where every stone, every tree, every mountain, and even the wind carries the spirit of Japan. This is a place where nature was never just a backdrop to human life, but always a living, sacred participant in their destiny. In this lecture, we will delve into the world of Japanese religion and mythology, a complex, multi-layered system that connects the ancient belief in nature spirits, Shintoism, the profound philosophical ideas of Buddhism, and a rich folklore filled with vivid stories of yokai and heroes. What makes Japan's religion and mythology unique? First and foremost, their ability to coexist harmoniously. Japan has not experienced a stark conflict between traditional beliefs and new religious currents. Shintoism seamlessly integrated into Japanese culture, while Buddhism, brought from abroad, complemented this picture, offering answers to questions about the meaning of life, death, and rebirth. But Japanese mythology is more than just tales of gods. It's a mirror of the Japanese mentality: respect for nature, the pursuit of harmony, reverence for the past and for ancestors. Every legend, every story helps us understand why Japanese culture is so careful with its traditions. When we speak of ancient Japan, we open up a world where nature played a central role in everyone's life. Unlike Western perceptions of nature as an object to be conquered or a resource to be exploited, the Japanese saw it as a living being, full of spiritual energy. This concept formed the basis of Japan's religious worldview, becoming an integral part of their daily lives, culture, and mythology. The ancient inhabitants of the Japanese islands believed that the world was filled with invisible spirits dwelling in every corner of nature. These spirits, called kami, could be associated with trees, rivers, mountains, wind, or even stones. For the ancient Japanese, nature was not a backdrop to their lives, it was its heart. Every day and every action depended on its cycles. Spring brought the cherry blossoms, a moment of renewal and a reminder of life's transience. Autumn was a time to thank the kami for the harvest. Every seasonal change was accompanied by rituals to show respect to the spirits of nature. If the rain was delayed, people made offerings. If drought threatened the harvest, special prayers were held. This is how Shintoism, now called the Way of the Gods, began. But back then, it wasn't a rigid religion with dogmas or rules. It was a way of living, respecting nature, seeking harmony, and remembering that humans cannot exist in isolation from the world around them. People believed that if the rules weren't followed, disasters would occur: droughts, storms, or illnesses. Special attention was paid to places where kami resided. Imagine an old mighty oak, its branches spread so wide that even the sun's rays barely penetrate. For ancient Japanese, such a tree was a spirit's home. It was wrapped, its sanctity revered. And Mount Fuji? Even today, it remains not just a natural beauty, but a sacred abode of a powerful kami. But nature wasn't always benevolent. Storms and earthquakes were also associated with the kami of storms and chaos. These perceptions of nature were reflected in the myths. The story of the divine couple Izanagi and Izanami creating the Japanese islands begins with them lowering a sacred spear into the primordial ocean. The drops of water that dripped from its tip turned into land. Isn't that a poetic idea? The islands are a gift from the gods, and nature is their embodiment. Over time, even with the arrival of Buddhism, respect for nature did not disappear. It was absorbed into the philosophy of this new religion, making it deeper, closer to the Japanese perception of the world. Thus, a unique culture was born, where harmony with nature became the main principle of life. Ancient Japan taught, nature is something more than what we see. It is alive, it breathes, and we humans are just a small part of it. And it was this understanding that became the foundation of all Japanese religion and mythology. So, we've already seen how deep the connection between ancient Japanese and nature was. But how exactly did these ideas take shape into what we call Shintoism today? Shintoism is a unique religion that is difficult to reduce to strict dogmas or rules. Its roots lie in nature itself, and its essence is harmony. The very word Shinto translates to the way of the gods or the way of spirits. A key aspect is the respect for nature spirits, called kami. But who are kami, and why do they hold such an important place in the Japanese worldview? Kami are spirits or entities that pervade everything around. They cannot be confined within strict boundaries or simply called gods. They are both simple and mysterious. Kami can dwell in majestic mountains, in murmuring rivers, or they can permeate people, phenomena, and even objects. For example, an old sword used by a great warrior might be so revered that it becomes an embodiment of kami. This deeply respectful attitude towards the world makes Shintoism unique. But kami don't just live in nature. They are closely linked to human life, protecting them from harm. Kami can be benevolent, helping those who respect them. But they can also be angered if they are neglected. Therefore, interaction with kami is always accompanied by rituals, prayers, and offerings. One of the famous stories is about a poor peasant. This peasant, who struggled to feed his family, once went down to the river and saw an old spirit sitting at the foot of a waterfall. This kami looked glum, and his hair was disheveled. The peasant, not afraid, offered to help. He cleared branches from the river. In gratitude, the kami of the waterfall filled the peasant's pitcher with gold coins, but warned him, "Never return here with selfish thoughts." The peasant left with gratitude, and his family lived happily. However, a year later, rumors of the gold coins reached his greedy neighbor. He went to the waterfall, pretending to be respectful, but instead of helping the kami, he demanded riches. This time, the kami showed his stern side. The neighbor returned home only to find his house turned to ruins and all his wealth gone. This story highlights the main point. Kami respect those who are sincere and kind, but can punish arrogance and greed. Thus, kami are not just spirits of nature or ancestors. They embody the Japanese perception of harmony and respect for all living things. It is through kami that the Japanese see the connection between themselves, nature, and the forces that make the world so amazing and unpredictable. When we talk about Shintoism, we cannot overlook its external manifestations, the elements that make this religion visible and tangible. These are not always easily understood concepts. Shintoism attracts with its simplicity and clarity. Every temple, every detail is part of a spiritual path where a person feels closer to nature and kami. Let's break down the key elements of Shintoism. Shrines. The first thing that catches the eye are the torii, the famous gates that seem to say, "Stop, you are entering a special place." Passing through them, you don't just step forward, you leave the ordinary world behind and enter a space where kami reside. These gates are a boundary between two worlds, ours, human, and the world of spirits. Torii come in different forms: bright red, wooden, stone, tall, and quite small. Their shapes are simple, but they contain an amazing meaning. Red, for instance, symbolizes purification and protection from evil, as if only those ready to respect the sacred can pass through these gates. One of the most impressive examples is the torii at Fushimi Inari Shrine in Kyoto. There, thousands of gates are arranged in long corridors that wind through the hills. Walking through these corridors, you seem to pass through a portal, leading deeper and deeper into the world of kami. This path is not just a walk, but a true spiritual journey, where each step brings you closer to something greater. After passing through the torii, you find yourself in a jinja, a shrine where kami dwell. But it's not just a building. Each shrine is a living organism that fits into nature. You will almost always find them in places that already seem special, in dense forests, on mountain peaks, or by quiet rivers. Shrines don't try to stand out. On the contrary, they blend harmoniously with the surrounding landscape. The main idea is for the kami to feel at home, as kami are nature spirits, and they prefer to stay in their usual places, be it a tree, a stone, or a mountain. Inside the shrine, there are two main zones. The handen is the heart of the shrine, where the kami's symbol is kept. Usually, this symbol is not visible to visitors. It could be a mirror, a stone, or a sword. It is hidden behind doors that contain the kami's power. The haiden is where people pray, make offerings, and communicate with kami. Everything is simple here. There's a tray where you can place a coin, bow, and clap your hands to attract attention. Each shrine has its unique features. For example, the Ise shrine, dedicated to the sun goddess Amaterasu, is completely rebuilt every 20 years. Why? To symbolize renewal and eternity. A shrine is not only a home for kami, but also a place for rituals. Festivals, purification ceremonies, weddings, and other important events are held here. People come to jinja to ask kami for protection, healing, or good fortune. But simply entering a shrine is not enough. Before approaching the kami, you need to show that you respect them. For this, there is a special purification ritual. Every shrine has a place called a mizuyai, a stone or wooden basin with water and neatly arranged wooden ladles. And here something amazing begins. This ritual is so simple and symbolic that you immediately feel your body and mind preparing for an encounter with something sacred. Here's how it happens. Take a ladle and pour some water on one hand. Feel the water wash over you. This symbolizes the purification of your actions. Repeat the same with the other hand. Scoop some water into your palm and gently rinse your mouth. This is not just hygiene, it's the purification of your words. You are about to pray, which means your words should be sincere. Rinse the ladle and place it back. Even this step is important. It shows that you care for those who will come after you. After this, you feel ready. Your hands, your mouth, and most importantly, your mind are purified. You are ready to enter the world of Kami. Tori, Jinja, and the purification ritual are not just rites. They are expressions of respect, simplicity, and harmony that lie at the heart of Shintoism. They teach us to be present. When you pass through the Tori, you leave your worries behind. When you purify your hands and mouth, you open yourself to something greater. When you enter the Jinja, you become part of a 1,000-year-old tradition that, through actions, not complex words or dogmas, says, you are part of this world. Respect it, commune with it, and live in harmony. So, we've already covered the key elements of this worldview. But Shintoism is not just about shrines and rituals. It's also about living traditions deeply rooted in culture. This religion unfolds in its festivals and rituals, where the veneration of Kami intertwines with the cycles of nature, family values, and the rhythm of daily life. Let's explore these amazing traditions in more detail. Matsuri are celebrations of life, expressions of gratitude to Kami for their protection and help. Every Matsuri is tied to an event, a harvest in autumn, or prayers for protection from summer disasters like typhoons. It's a time when the entire city or village comes alive, and it feels like the world around is filled with special energy. Imagine streets decorated with bright lanterns, the sound of drums and flute melodies. Crowds of people, dressed in traditional kimonos, participate in the festival. At the center of this action is the mikoshi, a portable shrine where Kami temporarily reside. Mikoshi are carried on the shoulders of men and women, chanting rhythmically. It is paraded around the entire city or village. This is not just a symbolic procession. It is believed that the Kami thus visit their lands and bless the people. One of the most vibrant examples of Matsuri is the Gion Matsuri in Kyoto. This festival is held in summer to protect the city from diseases and epidemics. Huge, elaborately decorated floats called yamaboko roll through the streets, and people enjoy performances and street food. Matsuri is not just a celebration of people, but also communion with nature. After the harvest in autumn, people give thanks for it. Every dance, every melody, every gesture during Matsuri is a message to Kami, an expression of respect and gratitude. If Matsuri focus on nature and Kami, then Obon is dedicated to honoring ancestors. It is one of the most touching holidays in Japan, when the souls of ancestors return to the world of the living to be with their families. Everything begins with preparations. Families clean the graves of ancestors, decorate them with flowers, and light incense. Altars are set up in homes with offerings, rice, fruits, tea, and sometimes the deceased's favorite dishes. All this is done to show ancestors that they are remembered, respected, and loved. The festival begins with the lighting of lanterns, which help the souls find their way home. Candles are lit in homes, and sometimes processions with lanterns can be seen on the streets. This creates an amazing atmosphere of light and warmth, as if every corner is illuminated with care and love. One of the central elements of the festival is the Obon Odori dance. It is a simple but profound dance. People move in a circle, following the taiko drum, and their hand and foot movements symbolize the joy of reunion with ancestors. Even those who have never danced before easily join in. It's a celebration for everyone. In the last days of Obon, the souls of ancestors depart back to the spirit world. To send them off, small paper lanterns are released into the sea. Imagine dark water illuminated by hundreds of lights, slowly carrying away the memories of loved ones. This is an incredibly touching and beautiful tradition that reminds us that even though our ancestors have gone, the connection with them remains. The festivals and rituals of Shintoism help us understand how the Japanese commune with the world of kami, express gratitude to nature, and honor their ancestors. But to truly understand the essence of this religion, we must return to its very origin, the myths. They not only explain the structure of the world, but also show how kami are connected to human life, nature, and destiny. Let's delve into the world of Japanese myths. In the beginning, the world was chaos, filled with formlessness. There was no earth, no sky, no oceans, no mountains, only an boundless mist in which the first deities began to manifest. These deities did not interfere with the creation process. They merely observed as order gradually emerged. Among them appeared Izanagi, male, and Izanami, female, the first divine couple, entrusted with an important mission: to create the land. For this, they were given a sacred spear adorned with precious stones, called Ama no Nuboko. They climbed the heavenly bridge, Ama no Ukihashi, and standing over the primordial ocean, lowered the spear into the water. When they raised it again, drops of water from the tip fell and turned into the first island, Onogoro. Descending onto this island, Izanagi and Izanani decided to continue their creation. To illuminate the world, they performed a marriage ceremony. However, the first attempt was unsuccessful. Their firstborns turned out to be ugly and lifeless. The reason for this was a violation of the ritual. Izanami spoke first, not Izanai, as required by the rules. Realizing their mistake, they repeated the ceremony, and this time it concluded successfully. Thus, the other Japanese islands were created. After creating the land, Izanagi and Izanami began to create deities that personified natural elements. Among them were the gods of wind, mountains, rivers, and trees. Each became a part of the world, helping it to develop. However, tragedy struck during the birth of Kagutsuchi, the god of fire. Izanami suffered mortal burns and, unable to bear the pain, died. Her death became the first tragic event in mythology, as until then the world was filled only with creation. Izanami descended to Yomi, the world of the dead, a place of shadows and darkness. Izanagi, consumed by grief, went after her to persuade her to return. When Izanagi reached Yomi, he found Izanami in a dark and gloomy place. She warned him, "You must not look at me until I give you permission to return to the world of the living." However, Izanagi could not resist. He lit a torch to see his beloved, and what he saw horrified him. Izanami's body was disfigured by decay, covered in worms. Enraged that he had broken his request, Izanami turned into the goddess of the underworld and vowed to pursue him. Izanagi fled, and Izanami sent demons after him. Barely escaping, Izanagi blocked the entrance to the underworld with a huge stone to sever the connection between the world of the living and the world of Yomi. Izanami remained there, becoming the goddess of death, and Izanagi returned to the world of the living to purify himself from defilement. Returning from Yomi, Izanagi felt that darkness and death had permeated his body. To rid himself of this, he performed a purification ritual, washing himself in a river. During this washing, new gods were born from his body. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, born from his left eye. Tsukuyomi, the moon god, born from his right eye. And Susanoo, the god of storms and chaos, born from his nose. These gods became central figures in mythology, personifying the struggle between order and chaos, light and darkness. After the world was created and the gods began to inhabit it, Japanese mythology focused on the relationships between kami, their characters, and their actions. Among them, Amaterasu, the sun goddess, whose radiance became the source of light for all living things, stands out particularly. Her story is not only an embodiment of light and life, but also a dramatic legend revealing the relationships between kami, which is directly linked to the Japanese imperial dynasty. Amaterasu was born from Izanagi's left eye when he was cleansing himself after his return from the underworld. Her appearance is believed to have marked the dawn, the beginning of a new light in the newly created world. Amaterasu became the ruler of the heavens, embodying warmth and life. Her name translates as "she who shines in the heavens," and her role was central to the entire pantheon of Japanese gods. However, like other kami, Amaterasu also had conflicts. One of the most famous and dramatic episodes in Japanese mythology is related to her seclusion in a cave, which led to the world being plunged into darkness. Susanoo, Amaterasu's younger brother, was known for his turbulent nature. His association with storms and chaos made him unpredictable. After being banished from heaven for his insolence, Susanoo decided to bid farewell to his sister. However, instead of a peaceful parting, he caused utter chaos. In a rage, he burst into her heavenly palace, began destroying rice fields, and desecrated sacred chambers. The most outrageous act was throwing a dead horse into the sacred hall where the weavers were. This act not only destroyed the loom, but also caused panic, resulting in the death of one of the weavers. This was the last straw. Offended and frightened, Amaterasu hid in a cave, which became known as the Heavenly Cave. Without her light, the world plunged into darkness. Fields ceased to bear fruit, and the kami began to worry that this darkness might destroy all that they had created. The gods convened a council to devise a way to lure her out of hiding. They decided that the only way to bring back the light was to create noise and merriment that could attract her attention. The main protagonist of this performance was Ame no Uzume, the goddess of dance and revelry. She began an eccentric dance, removed some of her clothes, performed funny movements, and laughed loudly. This attracted the attention of all the kami, who began to laugh and make noise along with her. Meanwhile, other gods prepared a mirror adorned with cherry branches and jewels. Attracted by the noise and merriment, Amaterasu peeked out of the cave. When she saw her reflection in the mirror, she was amazed by her own radiance, which she had not seen for a long time. This made her emerge. As soon as Amaterasu came out of the cave, the world was once again filled with light. The kami quickly blocked the entrance to the cave so she couldn't return. The darkness receded, and life on Earth was restored. This story is considered a legend about the origin of the Japanese imperial dynasty. It is believed that Amaterasu is the ancestress of the Japanese emperors. This connection emphasizes the divine origin of the ruling dynasty and its special role in the life of the country. Amaterasu passed on her power to her grandson, Ninigi no Mikoto, and sent him to Earth to become the first ruler. Along with him, she gave 3 sacred symbols, which became the imperial regalia: the mirror Yata no Kagami, a symbol of truth and purity; the sword Kusanagi, a symbol of strength and protection; and the jewels Magatama, a symbol of prosperity and harmony. Ninigi became the founder of the imperial dynasty, and the first Japanese emperor, Jimmu Tenno, is considered his descendant. Thus, Japanese emperors are traditionally perceived as descendants of gods, which emphasizes their special connection with heaven and kami. The story of Amaterasu is not just a myth. It teaches us how light, truth, and harmony can conquer chaos. Her seclusion in the cave shows that discord and disrespect can lead to darkness. But united efforts, merriment, and solidarity can bring the world back to light. Collective action, only through the joint efforts of all kami, brought light back to the world. And Amaterasu's role as the ancestor of emperors underscores her central significance to Japanese identity and culture. Now, knowing about the role of the sun goddess and her connection to the Japanese dynasty, let's continue to delve into mythology and learn more about other kami and their legends. After the story of the wise, radiant, and noble Amaterasu, let's turn our attention to her younger brother, Susanoo, the god of storms and chaos. If Amaterasu symbolizes light, order, and harmony, then Susanoo is the force of nature in its wild, untamed form. His character is an eternal contradiction. He could be destructive, but at the same time heroic and noble. His stories are full of battles and feats, among which his victory over the giant serpent Yama no Orochi stands out. From the very beginning, he showed an explosive temper, making him a figure who inspired both respect and fear. Susanoo was known for his unruly behavior. When he decided to behave inappropriately, his conflict with his sister Amaterasu reached its peak when he destroyed her rice fields and threw a dead horse into her palace, causing the world to plunge into darkness. As a result of his behavior, he was banished from heaven. But banishment was not the end of his story. On Earth, he proved himself a hero. After his banishment, Susanoo found himself on Earth in the province of Izumo. There he met an old man and an old woman who were crying bitter tears. Susanoo asked the reason for their grief, and the old man told his story. Every year, a giant serpent with 8 heads and 8 tails, Yama no Orochi, came to their village to take one of their daughters. This serpent was so enormous that its body stretched over 8 valleys and 8 mountain ranges, and its eyes blazed like fire. The old man and woman had 8 daughters, but 7 of them had already been eaten by the serpent. Only one remained, the beautiful Kushinada Hime, and she was also to be given to the monster. Susanoo offered his help, promising to defeat the serpent, but in return he asked for permission to marry Kushinada Hime. The old man and woman gladly agreed. Then Susanoo began to prepare for battle. Together with the peasants, he brewed 8 large barrels of sake, which was so strong that its aroma was intoxicating. Then these barrels were placed in the spots where the serpent usually came. When Yama no Orochi appeared, its 8 heads simultaneously reached for the sake, each dipping into a barrel to drink the wine. The serpent got so drunk that it couldn't move. Taking advantage of this, Susanoo struck it down with a single blow of his sword. When he cut open the serpent's body, he found in one of its tails a sacred sword, which later became known as Kusanagi. This sword became one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan, symbolizing power and protection. The sword Kusanagi was passed down from generation to generation. It is believed to be in the Atsuta Shrine in Nagoya, but it is never shown to the public. This emphasizes its sacredness. Susanoo took the sword from the serpent's tail as a trophy and a sign of his victory. He brought this sword as a gift to his sister Amaterasu, as a gesture of reconciliation and recognition of her greatness, after their quarrel that led to his banishment from heaven. Amaterasu, in turn, kept this sword as a symbol of divine power and protection. Susanoo remains one of the most controversial but popular figures in Japanese mythology. His image is often used in art, literature, and even modern culture as a symbol of strength and courage. Despite his chaotic, destructive forces, they can be used for good. Now, knowing about Susanoo's feats, we can better understand how Japanese mythology views the struggle between chaos and order. The following myths will show us more about kami and their roles in the world. After the captivating story of Susanoo, the god of storms and chaos, let's turn to another key figure in Japanese mythology, Tsukuyomi, the moon god. Tsukuyomi is the embodiment of night, tranquility, and mystery. Unlike the bright and active Amaterasu and the explosive Susanoo, Tsukuyomi appears more reserved, but his character is also full of contradictions. His stories are not as numerous as those of other kami, but their symbolism and influence on mythology and Japanese culture play an important role. Tsukuyomi emerged from a purification ritual when Izanagi, returning from the underworld, washed his body to rid himself of defilement. From his right eye arose Tsukuyomi, the god who was given dominion over the moon and the night sky. The name Tsukuyomi translates as "he who reads the moon" or "he who watches the moon." His very name speaks of his calm and focused nature. Tsukuyomi was not associated with storms or fire like his brother Susanoo, nor did he carry radiance and life like Amaterasu. He embodied night, peace, and mystery. Together with Amaterasu, he symbolized the harmony between day and night. The most famous legend about Tsukuyomi tells of his encounter with the food goddess, Ukemochi no Kami. This myth became a turning point that forever changed his relationship with Amaterasu. When Amaterasu asked Tsukuyomi to visit Ukemochi, she wanted to express gratitude for her ability to provide food for gods and people. Ukemochi possessed the magical power to create food from her body. To demonstrate her abilities, she began to prepare a feast. However, her methods might shock an unprepared viewer. She coughed up food from other parts of her body. For Ukemochi, it was an act of generosity and a display of her magic. But for Tsukuyomi, these actions seemed repulsive. His sense of order and purity rebelled against such a sight. Upon learning of Ukemochi's death, Amaterasu was so outraged that she refused to have any further relationship with Tsukuyomi. She declared that she would never see him again, and from that moment on, day and night began to exist separately. This is why the sun and the moon never appear in the sky simultaneously. This myth shows two important traits of Tsukuyomi: strict morality and a sense of purity. Tsukuyomi could not accept Ukemochi's actions because he considered them indecent. He acts as a defender of order, but his harsh reaction led to catastrophic consequences. And the second trait, an inability to understand the deeper meaning. Tsukuyomi saw only the external aspect of what was happening and failed to appreciate the generosity and magic behind Ukemochi's actions. This story about the separation of the moon and sun, which symbolizes the inability of complete harmony between different forces of nature, shows that even gods personifying order can come into conflict, leading to changes in the world. The moon in Japan has always been associated with beauty, silence, and contemplation. These qualities reflect Tsukuyomi's character. The Tsukuyomi festival, moon viewing, is an ancient tradition where people gather to admire the full moon, sing songs, and write poetry. This festival reflects Tsukuyomi's connection to ethics and meditation. After learning about the great gods of Japanese mythology and their influence on the world, it's time to move on to another important page in Japan's history: the emergence of Buddhism. This stage became a significant turning point when the Japanese began to adopt a new religion brought from outside and skillfully integrated it into their existing traditions. Let's explore how Buddhism came to Japan, how it transformed and coexisted with Shintoism, and what role these two religions play in the lives of the Japanese. Buddhism appeared in Japan in the 6th century and became a kind of gift from neighboring Korean states. This event not only changed Japan's spiritual landscape, but also influenced its culture, art, and philosophy. Buddhism was brought to Japan in 528 AD, when a Korean ruler sent a statue of the Buddha and sutrans to the Japanese court as a gift, accompanied by a letter stating that Buddhism was a great religion that would bring peace and prosperity. Initially, Buddhism was accepted with caution. The Japanese already had their traditional beliefs, Shinto, and the appearance of a new religion caused disputes among the aristocracy. Some saw Buddhism as a threat to their customs, while others saw it as an opportunity to strengthen cultural and political ties with the continent. The real impetus for the spread of Buddhism in Japan was given by Prince Shotoku Taishi, who lived in the late 6th, early 7th century. He became one of the main patrons of this religion, actively supporting the construction of temples, translation of Buddhist texts, and training of monks. It was thanks to Shotoku Taishi that Buddhism began to be perceived not only as foreign influence, but also as a way to strengthen spiritual and political order. The Japanese never perceived Buddhism as an absolute replacement for their traditions. Instead, they found a way to integrate it into their cultural and religious life. This process of adaptation, distinct from Indian and Chinese traditions. Shinto, as we know, focused on life, nature, and kami. Buddhism, with its teachings on rebirth, karma, and liberation from suffering, offered answers to questions about death and the afterlife. The Japanese did not oppose these beliefs. Instead, they found a way to harmoniously combine them. For example, Shintoism is responsible for birth and life. People turn to kami to ask for blessings at weddings, when children are born, or in daily life. Buddhism, on the other hand, is associated with death and rebirth. At funerals, memorial services, and prayers for the souls of the deceased, it is Buddhism that plays a key role. This division of spheres of influence helped the two religions coexist peacefully and complement each other. Another example of adaptation is the coexistence of Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines. In some places, they can be found next to each other, and sometimes even within the same complex. For example, during the Nara period, 6th century, temples dedicated to both religions were often built. Harmony between Buddhism and Shintoism is one of the unique features of Japanese culture. It shows how even different religions can coexist, complementing each other. It is an example of how respect and openness to new ideas can enrich society. The arrival of Buddhism in Japan was not a conflict, but rather opened new horizons for the spiritual development of the country. Now that we know how these two religions coexist, let's delve deeper into their symbolism and influence on society. Over time, Buddhism began to develop in several directions, and each of them left its unique mark on Japanese culture. One of the most significant schools that particularly distinguished itself in Japan was Zen Buddhism. Its philosophy, practice, and influence on art continue to be a source of inspiration for both Japanese people and the world. Zen Buddhism originated in China as Chan and was brought to Japan in the 7th century. The main focus in Zen is the direct experience of reality, achieved through meditation. It is a school that strives for simplicity, inner awareness, and harmony with the world. At the heart of Zen Buddhism is the practice of zazen, seated meditation. But it's not just about sitting in silence. Zazen is a way to cleanse the mind of extraneous thoughts, emotions, and ego. In the process of meditation, practitioners strive to see their true nature and achieve a state of satori, sudden enlightenment that reveals true understanding of the world. Meditation in Zen does not require complex rituals or deep study of texts. All that is needed is silence, focus on breathing, and a willingness to let go of anything unnecessary. This approach made Zen attractive to people seeking simplicity and a direct path to truth. Zen philosophy found its vivid reflection in Japanese art. Zen Buddhism teaches that beauty is something hidden in simplicity, silence, and natural harmony. This idea formed the basis of many artistic and cultural traditions of Japan. One of the most famous manifestations of Zen in art is the rock gardens, minimalist landscapes consisting of gravel, stones, and moss. They are a symbol of Zen philosophy. Each element of the garden has its place and meaning, and the gravel, laid out in wavy lines, symbolizes water or movement. The rock garden at Ryoan-ji, Kyoto, is one of the most famous examples of this art. This garden has only 15 stones, but they are arranged so that from any viewing point, only 14 are always visible. This incompleteness symbolizes the idea that a complete understanding of the world always extends beyond human perception. Rock gardens are not just for contemplation, but for meditation. Working on such a garden is a Zen practice, where each stone and line of gravel helps achieve harmony. Another important contribution of Zen to Japanese culture was the tea ceremony, or chado. The tea ceremony in Japan is not just the process of preparing and drinking tea, but a ritual where every detail has its meaning. A simple cup of tea becomes an occasion to create a moment of tranquility, harmony, and connection with the present. The principles of Zen are reflected in every aspect of the ceremony. The simplicity of the tea room, which is decorated minimally so that nothing distracts from the present moment. The focus on the process of preparing tea, how the water is heated, how the powdered matcha tea is whisked, how the guest receives the cup. The idea of transience. Each tea is unique and will never be repeated. Similarly, these rituals not only teach respect for simple things, but also remind us of the value of every moment. Zen Buddhism taught the Japanese to find harmony in simple things. It is not just a philosophy or a religion, but a way of life that helps people be closer to nature, themselves, and the present moment. Its principles are reflected in architecture, cuisine, calligraphy, and martial arts. Zen teaches us to look at the world not with eyes full of expectations, but with an open heart, capable of seeing beauty in silence, emptiness, and transience. This is a lesson that remains relevant today, inspiring people all over the world. Now that we've explored the basic principles of Zen Buddhism and Japanese art, let's move on to the next part to explore other aspects of Buddhist culture in Japan. Continuing our journey through the main schools of Buddhism in Japan, let's focus on Jodoshu, or the Pure Land teaching. This teaching came from India and is distinguished by its accessibility and simplicity, which made it one of the most popular forms of Buddhism among the common people. At the core of its teachings is the belief in Amida Buddha, who offers a path to salvation that requires no complex rituals or deep meditation. Amida Buddha, known in the Japanese tradition as Amida Buddha, is a deity embodying infinite compassion and wisdom. It is believed that he resides in the Pure Land, an ideal world free from suffering, where souls can achieve enlightenment. Legend has it that Amida, while still a bodhisattva, made vows that became the basis of this teaching. The word bodhisattva comes from Sanskrit and translates as one who strives for enlightenment. However, it is more than just a person on the path to awakening. A bodhisattva is one who renounces full enlightenment to help other beings overcome suffering and achieve liberation. Unlike Zen Buddhism, which requires long meditations and inner searching, the Pure Land teaching offers a simpler path. All that is required is sincere faith in Amida Buddha and the recitation of his name, which is called Nembutsu. Nembutsu consists of repeating the phrase Namu Amida Butsu, which means homage to Amida Buddha. This practice requires no special conditions or complex rituals. It can be performed anywhere and at any time. The belief that Amida Buddha will hear your call is enough to gain his grace. This simplicity made Jodoshu popular among peasants, merchants, and those who did not have the opportunity to dedicate much time to complex Buddhist practices. The Jodoshu school was founded in the 6th century by the monk Han Shan. Han Shan sought a way to make Buddhism accessible to everyone, regardless of their education or social status. He concluded that salvation was possible for every person if they sincerely believed in the mercy of Amida Buddha. Han Shan's teachings spread rapidly because they appealed to people who felt distanced from the complex rituals and philosophical concepts of traditional Buddhism. The very idea of the Pure Land became a symbol of comfort and hope. It is not just a heavenly realm, but a place where the soul can find peace and the opportunity to achieve enlightenment. This is especially important in times when people faced illness and suffering. The belief in the Pure Land gave them the strength to cope with difficulties. Although the path to salvation is simple, the Jodoshu school also includes symbolism that helps strengthen faith and create an atmosphere of spirituality. Statues of Amida Buddha, standing in a meditation pose with hands folded in a gesture of blessing. Prayer beads, juzu, used to repeat nembutsu to focus on the practice. And finally, chanting and collective prayers. Such rituals help unite people in common faith and create a sense of community. Today, the Pure Land teaching remains one of the most popular forms of Buddhism in Japan. It reminds us that the spiritual path can be simple, and faith and sincerity are paramount. This school teaches us that even in a world of suffering, there is always room for hope and compassion. Now, knowing about the Jodoshu school and its significance, we can continue our journey through other aspects of Buddhism in Japan. Moving on to the next chapter, where we will explore in more depth one of the most important philosophies of Buddhism that intertwines with Japanese culture and worldview, the concept of karma and rebirth. This chapter is not just about religious dogmas, but about how these ideas influence daily life, art, and even the Japanese way of thinking. Life is like a river. Every movement, every pebble thrown, creates ripples that spread far beyond what we can see. This metaphor perfectly describes how the Japanese perceive karma and rebirth, not as a set of strict laws or dogmas, but as a living fabric that connects our every action with the surrounding world. In the Japanese understanding, karma is a kind of invisible imprint left by everything we do, think, or say. But it's not a cold theory or a scare tactic about do bad, expect punishment. No, karma in Japanese life is a reminder that every action has consequences, even the smallest ones. Imagine you wake up in the morning and smile at your neighbor on your way to work. For you, it was a trifle, but for them, perhaps that smile became a ray of light on a difficult day. Or conversely, you said something offensive and forgot about it yourself a minute later, but the person thinks about it all day. Thus, karma lives in Japanese culture through the trifles that shape the world around us. Now imagine that life is not a straight line from birth to death, but an endless cycle where every action shapes not only the present but also the future. This is the Japanese understanding of rebirth. Here, death is not an end, but a transition to a new state. This concept is known as the Wheel of Samsara. This perspective makes life more meaningful. Everything we do does not disappear into nothingness. It's like planting a tree. Perhaps you will never see it in full bloom, but future generations will surely feel its shade and fruits. The belief in rebirth gives the Japanese a sense of responsibility not only for themselves, but also for those who will come after them. These ideas are not abstract philosophy that lives only in books. They are felt in how the Japanese behave every day. If you have ever been to Japan, you've probably noticed how attentive people are to details. A slight bow, an apology, even if you barely touched someone in a crowd. All this is a manifestation of awareness of karma. By respecting others, we create harmony that returns to us. And what about difficulties? In Japanese culture, hardships are considered lessons. Perhaps it's a result of karma from a past life, but that doesn't mean you should give up. It's an opportunity to become better, to correct your mistakes, and to find the strength to move forward. The lotus is also a symbol of karma. This amazing plant grows from mud, but its flowers remain pure. This is a reminder that even when going through difficulties, we can remain bright and kind. The belief in karma and rebirth teaches us that we do not live in a vacuum. Everything we do matters. And this is not just a philosophy, it's a way of life that makes the world better. If each of us strives to do good around us, this world will become a little brighter. Buddhism is not only a teaching on how to live consciously and find harmony, but also an incredible world of legends that convey its deepest meanings. These stories bring to life the ideals of mercy, compassion, and the pursuit of truth. Today, we will talk about two great figures of Buddhism: Buddha Shakyamuni, the founder of the teaching, and Amida Buddha, whose boundless compassion has inspired millions. The story of Buddha Shakyamuni is an epic about the search for the meaning of life, which began with a simple but profound question: why is there so much suffering in the world? Buddha Shakyamuni was born over 2,500 years ago into a royal family in present-day Nepal. His mother, Queen Maya, on the night before his birth, saw a dream of a white elephant entering her side. This dream was considered an omen that her son would become a great person, either an all-powerful king or a spiritual teacher. According to legend, Buddha Shakyamuni was born in the Lumbini garden under a sal tree. It is said that the infant immediately took 7 steps, and under each of his steps a lotus bloomed, emphasizing his special destiny. As a prince, Buddha Shakyamuni grew up in incredible luxury. His father wanted to protect him from all suffering by surrounding the palace with beauty, comfort, and festivities. But despite all this, the prince felt something was missing. One day, he saw an old man, a symbol of aging, which is inevitable. Then, a sick person, which reminded him of suffering. Then he saw a dead person, and he realized the inevitability of death. And finally, he met an ascetic, a person who sought truth. These encounters shook him to the core. He realized that neither wealth nor power could protect from suffering. Buddha Shakyamuni's path began with the decision to leave the palace. his family, and luxury to find an answer to the main question: how to escape suffering. Years of asceticism and meditation yielded no results until he sat under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. There, he vowed not to rise until he achieved enlightenment. The demon Mara, personifying evil, tried to distract him with fears, temptations, and doubts. But Buddha Shakyamuni overcame all trials. At dawn, he achieved enlightenment, seeing the true nature of life. Everything is part of an infinite cycle, and liberation is possible through understanding. He became the Buddha, the Enlightened One, and began to share his teachings, which changed the lives of millions. If Shakyamuni became an example of the search for truth, then Amida Buddha offered hope for salvation to all who despaired. Amida Buddha, while still a bodhisattva, made 48 vows, striving to create a world that became known as the Pure Land. Amida vowed that anyone who sincerely called his name, even once in their life, would be accepted into this abode and could find peace there. His 48 vows became the foundation of the Pure Land School, the most important of which is the vow of compassion. Amida vowed to save all who turned to him, and the vow of the Pure Land. He created a place where souls could achieve enlightenment without facing obstacles. The Pure Land is not just a paradise in the usual sense, but a place where souls can focus on spiritual growth, free from suffering. It is a world where there is no pain or death, where everything is permeated with light and harmony. The invocation of Amida Buddha through the phrase Namu Amida Butsu became one of the most accessible ways of spiritual practice. This simple but sincere prayer allowed millions of people to find solace. The stories of Shakyamuni and Amida show two paths in Buddhism. Shakyamuni teaches us to act. His story inspires us to search for truth, work on ourselves, and strive to understand the world. Amida teaches us to hope. His vows remind us that even in the most difficult circumstances, there is always support and mercy. These legends are not just tales from the past. They remain relevant, reminding us that life is a balance between action and faith, between self-improvement and trust in the world. After discussing Buddhism, which has become an integral part of Japanese culture, let's move to another, more mysterious world, the world of yokai. If Buddhism in Japan brought a philosophy of harmony, compassion, and mindfulness, then yokai added a touch of mysticism, fear, and incredible fantasy. Imagine a world where, behind every tree, in the shadow of every house, or beneath the surface of a river, a mysterious creature might be hiding, not necessarily good or evil, but simply incomprehensible. This world is the world of yokai, the supernatural beings of Japanese mythology. Yokai are not just monsters or ghosts. They are phenomena of nature, human fears, myths, and lessons gathered together and brought to life in the most incredible forms. The word yokai can be translated as mysterious phenomenon or supernatural being, but in reality, the concept is much deeper. Yokai are spirits or beings that inhabit the natural world or coexist with ours. They can be benevolent, malevolent, or entirely neutral, but always mysterious. Their images range from cute and amusing to terrifying and deadly, making yokai unique characters from folklore. Every yokai is a reflection of human fears, beliefs, and relationships with nature. They symbolize what people tried to understand but could not explain: strange sounds in the night, unexplained illnesses, raging rivers, or dark forests. To better understand yokai, they need to be divided into categories. Each plays its role in Japanese mythology and culture. Yes, among yokai, there are those who do not seek to cause harm at all. They protect, help, or simply add a little magic to everyday life. For example, Jizo, sometimes considered a yokai, is a spirit or bodhisattva who helps children and travelers. His statues can often be found along roadsides or bridges. There are also neutral yokai. These yokai do not want to harm, but you cannot always expect kindness from them. They exist in their own world, and if you don't bother them, they won't bother you. For instance, tanuki, magical raccoon dogs that transform into people or objects to play amusing pranks. They are not evil, but they can cause a lot of trouble. Or makura makura, a yokai that lives in old paper screens. If there are holes in the screen, they fill with eyes that watch everything that happens around. And finally, the last category is evil yokai. These beings are the embodiment of everything that can frighten a person. They personify death, illness, revenge, their manifestation before the unknown. A prime example of an evil yokai is Rokurokubi, one of the most amazing and memorable creatures in Japanese mythology. Outwardly, they are ordinary women, no different from others. But at night, their true nature is revealed. Their necks begin to stretch to incredible lengths, allowing them to peer into windows, explore dark corners, and frighten unsuspecting people. This image is so unusual that it has become one of the most striking symbols of Japanese mythology. One legend tells of a man who suspected his wife of being a Rokurokubi. One night, he pretended to be asleep and saw her neck begin to stretch and wander around the room. Frightened, he ran away from home, but later returned and stayed with her, despite her nature. This story shows that even among yokai, there can be manifestations of love and loyalty. Another legend tells of a group of monks who stopped at a house where a Rokurokubi lived. At night, one of the monks noticed her neck stretching and trying to peer into their rooms. He recited a prayer that made the yokai return to her body. The wife repented of her actions and asked for forgiveness. After traveling into the world of yokai in general, it's time to focus on the most famous ones, those who have stirred people's imaginations for centuries. The fox, which is not only cunning and intelligent, but can also take human form. In Japanese mythology, such foxes are known as kitsune. They are beautiful and cunning. It is believed that kitsune are not ordinary foxes, but beings with magical abilities. The older the fox, the more tails it has, and the most powerful kitsune can have 9 tails, shining like moonlight. Their image embodies wisdom and power, but also cunning and unpredictability. Kitsune serve the deity Inari, the patron of rice and fertility. They bring good luck, guard fields, and help people in times of trouble. If a kitsune visits you in a dream or helps you in real life, it's a sign that you are protected. But not all kitsune are so noble. Some of them come to seduce men and lead them into trouble. They can play with a person's mind, creating illusions that are indistinguishable from reality. One of the most touching stories tells of a man who married a woman without suspecting she was a kitsune. They were happy, but one day he accidentally saw her true form. He couldn't accept it, but her love for him remained forever. This is a story about how difficult it is to accept another's nature, even if you love them. In the dense Japanese forests and high mountains, where silence and the eternal shadow of trees reign, live tengu. These spirits are depicted with wings and long noses, and their image has evolved over centuries. Tengu are mountain spirits, symbols of strength and independence. They are depicted as half-human, half-bird creatures with sharp eyes and imposing beaks or noses. They are considered masters of martial arts and teachers, capable of passing on their knowledge to the worthy. Legend has it that the famous warrior Minamoto no Yoshitsune learned from the Tengu. He understood that true strength comes not only from physical power, but also from spiritual clarity. Tengu guard their territories, and anyone who destroys nature risks angering them. At the same time, they can protect those who respect nature and ask for their help. Although Tengu became more positive characters in old legends, they were considered demons who could abduct children or travelers, leading them astray. These stories served as a warning to those who dared to venture too far into the forest. If kitsune and tengu can be benevolent, then oni are pure threat. These demons embody fear, chaos, and punishment. They are the embodiment of the darkest sides of the human soul. They are usually depicted as giant humanoid creatures with red or green skin, huge fangs, and a terrifying appearance. They wear animal skins. They seem created to instill terror. They are associated with hell, where they punish sinners for their misdeeds. They are beings that remind people that everything has to be paid for. They all live in the afterlife. In other stories, oni sow chaos. Sometimes the boundaries between human and yokai become so thin that real historical figures begin to be perceived as supernatural beings. For example, Hattori Hanzo, ruler of Iga province, a legendary samurai and ninja master, was known for his incredible strength and agility. His nickname, Devil Hanzo, highlighted his characteristics. Some believed he possessed demonic abilities because he moved so fast that he seemed to disappear into the shadows. Each of these yokai is not just a mythological character. They are a reflection of human qualities, fears, and desires. Kitsune are cunning and magic. Tengu are strength and wisdom, and oni are a reminder of the consequences of dark deeds. Together, they create a vivid and multifaceted picture of Japanese mythology, where good and evil do not always have clear boundaries. These beings remind us that the world is full of mysteries and mysterious forces that cannot be fully understood. But this is precisely what makes them so fascinating and eternal. Japanese folklore is rich with stories of spirits that have become firmly ingrained in the country's culture. Yurei, Nureonna, Kappa. These are not just characters from scary legends. These beings reflect human fears, struggles with nature, and even moral lessons. Let's delve deeper into their stories and learn what secrets their myths hold. Yurei are Japanese ghosts who could not find peace after death. They often remain in the world of the living due to strong emotions, revenge, grief, or unfinished business. Their image is recognizable: white clothing, symbolizing a shroud, long black hair falling over their faces. To transition to the afterlife, they require a purification ritual. If this does not happen, they remain attached to the earthly world. It is believed that the soul of a person who died a violent death becomes a yurei, full of anger and longing. One of the most famous stories about yurei tells of a woman named Oiwa. She was poisoned by her own husband so that he could marry another woman. Her face became disfigured by the poison, and she died in agony. But her spirit returned to seek revenge. In the guise of his new wife, she appeared to her husband in a mirror, in his dream. In the end, he couldn't take it and went mad. Oiwa's story became so popular that it is depicted in kabuki theater and horror films. Or, for example, Saika Geishai, one of the creepiest urban legends about yurei. She died under a train and her body was torn in half. Now she wanders through stations and empty streets, asking her victims questions about her death. If a person doesn't know the right answers, Saika takes their life. This story is an example of how ancient myths can transform into modern legends. Nure-onna, or wet woman, is a yokai associated with water bodies. Her appearance is striking in its duality: a beautiful woman with long black hair, and the lower part is a serpentine body, slippery and strong. She often appears on the banks of rivers or seas, attracting the attention of travelers with her strange but charming beauty. Many stories describe her as a creature that lures people into traps. Nure-onna can pretend to be harmless and ask a traveler to help her carry a baby. But as soon as a person takes the child in their arms, they discover that they are holding not a baby, but a heavy stone that cannot be dropped until the victim is stunned. Then Nure-onna attacks, draining their life force. One famous story tells of a fisherman who saw Nure-onna on the riverbank. She asked him to help her. Intrigued, he agreed, but at the same time asked why she had such a strange body. She, surprised by his courage and intelligence, let him go. This story is a reminder that wit and caution can save you from any danger. And finally, kappa are among the most famous yokai. These are small humanoid creatures with turtle shells, green skin, and a hollow on their heads filled with water. It is the water in this hollow that gives kappa strength, and if it is poured out, kappa becomes weak. Kappa are dangerous because they drag people into the water. Kappa are especially dangerous for children, whom they lure into rivers and lakes, and they also steal cucumbers. Kappa love cucumbers, and in some villages there is still a tradition of throwing cucumbers into the water as an offering to these spirits so that they don't harm people. Despite their mischievous and sometimes dangerous nature, kappa can be grateful. If a person outsmarts a kappa, for example, by making it bow, which spills the water from its head, the kappa becomes indebted to that person. In gratitude, kappa can share medical secrets or help solve complex problems. Once, a farmer caught a kappa stealing his harvest. Instead of punishing it, he offered kappa a deal. If kappa stopped stealing, the farmer would treat him to cucumbers. Kappa agreed, and from then on, he helped the farmer water the fields. This story is a reminder that even the strangest creatures can be allies. Yokai, these mysterious creatures of Japanese folklore, were never just elaborate monsters to scare children at night. For the Japanese, they have always been something more, a link between nature, the supernatural, and the spiritual world. To understand yokai, one must look at them through the lens of Shintoism, finding common ground with them in Shintoism. The world is not just what we see. Mountains, rivers, even stones can be homes for kami, divine spirits that embody the very essence of nature. Yokai, in this context, were perceived as part of this great system. They are an integral part of nature that must be respected. Imagine a kappa sitting on the riverbank. For the Japanese, he was not just a mischievous spirit who could drag someone into the water, but a kind of guardian of the river. If you treat the water with respect, make offerings, for example, cucumbers, then kappa might even help you. This is amazing philosophy. Yokai don't just scare, they remind us how important it is to live in harmony with the surrounding world. Kitsune, serving Inari, the deity of fertility, are another example. These cunning and powerful foxes were more than just messengers of the deities, performing important tasks such as guarding shrines or conveying blessings. And although Kitsune could play with people, deceiving them, at the heart of their actions was the idea that the world of spirits and people is closely intertwined. The cycle of birth and death, and yokai began to be perceived as beings who got stuck on this path due to their actions. Remember Oni, scary demons with horns who torment sinners in hell. In Buddhism, they are not just monsters, but the result of bad karma. This is a reminder that our actions have consequences that can follow us even after death. Yurei, ghosts with unfinished business, find explanation in Buddhist teachings. Their inability to transition to the next world is linked to emotions they cannot let go of: anger, revenge, longing. That is why Buddhist monks performed rituals to appease such spirits, helping them find peace and transition to the next stage of life. As we now know, not all yokai were friendly or neutral. Some of them posed a real danger, and people sought ways to protect themselves. This is where the traditions of Shintoism and Buddhism came into play, giving people tools to combat the inexplicable. For example, salt was used as a powerful means of purification. It was not only scattered at doorways to ward off yokai, but also used in purification rituals. Have you ever seen small piles of salt placed before meals at Japanese rituals? This is part of this ancient tradition. Or consider sacred mirrors in Shintoism. A mirror is a symbol of purity and truth. It was believed that an evil spirit, seeing its reflection, would be frightened and leave. In some shrines, mirrors are still sacred artifacts. And there were also amulets, such as omamori, which could be bought at a shrine. Each amulet was made for a specific purpose: protection from evil spirits, attracting good luck, or even help in studying. But behind them lay a deeper idea. The amulet did not just protect, it reminded that a person was under the protection of higher powers. Paper talismans attached to doors or windows to ward off yokai. Prayers or sacred symbols were written on them. The connection of yokai with Shintoism and Buddhism shows something amazing. The Japanese never perceived the supernatural as something alien. For them, the world of spirits and the world of humans are one reality where everything is interconnected. Yokai could deceive or even attack, but there was always logic in their actions. If you treat nature and others with respect, then the spirit world will also be benevolent. This philosophy is alive today. People still visit shrines, buy amulets, and perform purification rituals, because even in the modern world, full of technology, the Japanese do not forget their connection to something greater than themselves. And perhaps this is what makes their culture so unique. Japanese mythology and folklore intertwined with the deep traditions of Shintoism. The world of yokai, beings that embody human fears, emotions, and connection with nature. From cunning kitsune and terrifying oni to mysterious yurei and kappa, each yokai carries a lesson. They remind us that the world is full of mysteries, and harmony with the surrounding world requires respect for what surrounds us. Rituals, amulets, and shrines served not only as a means of protection, but also as a way to build relationships with these entities. These traditions, rooted in Shintoism and Buddhism, continue to live today, connecting the Japanese with their rich spiritual heritage. Thank you for listening to the lecture to the end. I hope this journey into the world of Japanese mythology was fascinating and inspiring for you. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share your thoughts and ask questions. I am always happy to continue the conversation on such mystical and profound topics. Until next time.